Today, we're at the Main Street Coffee House in Independence, and this is where we met.
20 years ago.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Van, and we wanted to share who we were back then, or at least our memory of who we were, and who we are today. And as we go along in other videos, we're going to share all the things that have happened in between there.
And there's been so many steps along the way.
And the growth that we've shared.
Yeah, definitely that.
So, who were you 20 years ago?
So 20 years ago, I was a college student at Nebraska. I had just turned 21, and I came down to Independence for our church's World Conference in 2004. Who were you?
I was 22. I owned my own house and had roommates who paid me rent, and I worked for my father as a piano technician, which I'm still a piano technician now, working for myself.
And who else were we? Like, what were our beliefs and our mindsets at the time?
Well, we met at a church thing, and I was very active and very much of a good little church boy back then. I was a youth leader, which I had been since I was 18. What about you?
I'm like, ever since you could, ever since you weren't one of the youth, you were the youth leader.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a big part of your life at that time.
For a long time.
It was huge. So at the time we met, I was trying to recommit to the church. Like, I had had my college girl party scene moment, and I was like, okay, I'm going back to church. And partially to like find a good church boy to settle down with.
It's me.
It was you.
Not anymore, but I mean, we're settled down still.
And so, yeah, I had made this choice to recommit, and which is the entire reason that I came down for World Conference. And I would say that I was questioning, I was seeking, and hoping that this helped provide some answers.
I was looking for a partner. And it was a young adult activity with the church then that we were at this coffee shop for. And I was here just like hoping there was some single ladies and some that I didn't know, because I was very active in church and knew just about everyone.
And I, as a Nebraska person, was like, no, I actually don't know anybody here. So I was so happy that someone came and talked to us. It was great.
And back then, I was super conservative, Rush Limbaugh listener, Republican, kind of all the things that my dad was, because at 22, I hadn't decided who I was. I was just following still. I wasn't challenging anything yet. I was flowing with.
And I was kind of living under a rock in college, just doing the college thing. I was deeply involved in sorority stuff at the time, and so from a political standpoint, when we met, you seemed so sure and confident, and you're like, well, this is this, and this is this, and I'm like, cool, okay, check the box, like, this makes sense, I'm happy to have my life fit into like this little thing that is sense making, and
I felt pretty confident back then.
Yeah.
In all of those things.
Right. And I think like in my deep knowing of myself, like I think I was still questioning, but happy to, like move on to other things that I was working on at that time at 21. Like there's so much life you're trying to figure out. And so I was like, oh, good. I don't have to work on that thing anymore. We got it.
Yeah.
Boom. Box check complete.
How much longer after that was it till we got married? Year and a half?
Yeah, I feel like we knew pretty quickly that we just meshed well together.
Yeah. And it was this long distance relationship because I was here in Kansas City.
And I was up in Lincoln at the time. It was we met spring of my junior year.
Yeah. 3 days after you turned 21.
Yes.
So I was glad you were able to come.
Right. I would have been at the bars every weekend, but this guy had me driving down to Kansas City.
Yeah, he was a good little church boy.
Yep. um,
I laugh at that with who I am now.
and also I like corrupted him.
Sinner.
I know. Let's see.
Back then, we had very different views of what marriage looked like, of what maybe even gender roles in some senses look like, of what a relationship was and was supposed to be. And some of those things we didn't really talk about back then. We just assumed, as you do at that age, that, oh, everyone thinks like me. Oh, you were probably raised the same way as me. Both of our parents were raised in the same churches.
Like, oh, we have so much in common, and so like we're so compatible that, like, quite honestly, I think some of the assumptions that we had about marriage were so like in our subconscious at the time that we wouldn't have even known to talk about
Yeah.
some of the things that have come up in the last 20 years.
In the last 20 years.
In the last 20 years, and now we feel old.
And there's been so many things that have come up for us that have been so important and so deep to who we each are and so deep to who we are together that we didn't understand back then, and that we have come to understand some of those only in the last few years. And I'm sure we're going to find more that we don't understand, that we dive deeper into. But like some of the biggest struggles that you and I have had in our relationship and our marriage are things that we didn't understand until more recently.
Yeah, I would say.
And with who we have become, and who are we now?
Yes. I want to say before that, like, one of the commitments that has been a through line for us in our relating is I think just like, I don't know, being open to the growth of the next iteration of like, who are we, who are you, who am I, and just like holding space for the discovery of just our continued evolution. And so like it leaves me feeling excited about what is the next 20 years and, you know, where are we going from here? And some of these paths we couldn't have predicted.
Also, I love that I'm involved in your next 20 years in your mind. Thank you for that.
Right?
That makes me happy.
Yay. So who are we now? Well, so I'm 41, you're 42.
Soon to be 43.
Right? We have, like, our careers have taken us certain directions and paths.
We're parents to 3 kids, 2 of them teenagers.
And
3 daughters, too.
Yeah, and it's so fun to watch them evolve and change and grow, and you know, like discovering the iterations of them as well. Like that's been really fun.
And what ways that we were raised that we said, no, we're not raising our children like that.
Yep. So we started in the church, and now I would say we both.
Yeah, agnostic atheist is what I would call myself.
Humanist.
Humanist is the biggest part of that. Like, continuing to question, continuing to grow, accepting science.
Right? I feel like the hum of the universe, of something beyond me, that hums within me also. And I feel like I've released the dogma or the dead parts of ritual and have really looked at ritual in an alive sense more recently, because I do feel like some of those parts of religion really hold a place in society, and it helps like with connectedness within community, and I feel like I've really let go of like the dogmatic parts that I grew up with.
Me too. And the whole talk about ritual, I mean, we're going to make videos about ritual because of how important it's become in who we are, especially with how much I threw it all out when it's all bullshit, and then calling ritual back into growth for ourselves, for each other. And so we'll make some videos on ritual. And I'm excited about that. That'll be fun.
Definitely. I think one of the big movements, like who are we now, and I feel like we're much better communicators. For one.
Oh, yeah.
Like so much better.
Which isn't just from like communicating poorly all these years and now coming into it, but
Like we thought we were
going,
good, but
yeah,
we're better.
yeah, and even where we're at now, where we're like really quite good communicators. I hope that we look back in 5 years and go, wow, we sucked at communication back then.
Right. Like let's get even better.
Yeah, we have read so many books about communication. We've listened to hundreds of hours of podcasts. We have gone through school on communication. While you went through school to become an audiologist, and you are a doctor of audiology, and I have been a piano technician for over 20 years. I also went to school to be a massage therapist, which I was for a short time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have both been through school to be sex and relationship coaches, which is one of the big spaces that we want to make videos for.
Totally.
And move through with each other.
Yeah.
And we got into that because of our communication skills that we've gained.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like some of the things that we've learned along the way, I guess it motivated us to say, what if we had learned some of those things 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? And how can we even more consciously sit with some of the harder emotions that we've been through and sit with others in the process of deep emotions.
Hey, we went through these struggles. Can we help you not go through the struggles as deeply as we did? Hey, things that took us 7 years to repair, hopefully we can sit with you and help you in a couple of videos, sessions of discussions.
Yeah. And also that if there is something that somebody else, like that another person is sitting with that is on that long journey, like it's nice to know that one is not alone.
Yeah.
And just the sitting with is huge.
I mean, how many times have I heard someone say the same thing that we have gone through together and say, oh, this is so hard, how do you do this? And go, oh, well, I could tell you how we did. Doesn't make it right way for you two, so let's find what's right for you.
Mm-hmm. Or even just the question of like, do you want our advice of like, how did we go through this, or do you just want to be heard and like seen in the hardness of this actual experience right now?
Yeah, or just hear me too.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and we had a lot of unconscious expectations early on of what marriage looks like, of relationship looks like. And we didn't understand when, I thought as we would go through it that, we'd have sex all the time, that it would be this thing that you'd be excited about. And then your views were... on the spot.
On the spot. I had zero modeling for what intimate connection and like relating sexually on a day-to-day basis looked like, and so and even like connection with my own body and my own sexuality and my own desires and things like this. And so to me, the idea of like having sex every day ended up in the midst of life and busyness landing within me as obligation. And it took the fun.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be every day. I wasn't calling for it every day, but like on a regular basis.
Right. And it is really like the excitement of like, oh, we get to do this thing, whereas like at 21, 22, like that was not a previously accessible thing, especially coming from a religious background.
Sure.
And
For you, for me, for my religious background, it was now that we're married, we get to all the time.
Right. Right. And I wasn't, I would say, was not like as conscious of a
Yeah.
thought of like me being actually connected in with what are my desires.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at like how can I fulfill your desires. So I was like outward focused rather than inward focused when it comes to like what I even imagine
Yeah.
as a part of like what does sexuality look like within a marriage.
Sure. And so a lot of what we've gone through our communication is to be able to state, hey, what does sexuality look like for you in a marriage? How do you even find your desire? How do you even speak it? What does it look like to explore your desire on your own even?
Right, exactly. I know we also wanted to talk about like codependency and individuation.
Oh yeah,
which
well,
I think has been huge.
I mean,
it could be its own video.
We've sat here
It will
and have filled up pages of things that we might talk about in this that we now have a dozen videos or 24 to make from it.
Right.
So yeah, but no, and I think that is its own video.
Right.
So that's a teaser
Right.
for an upcoming video.
And I want to touch on it briefly because I think in that transition of who we were to who we are now, we early in our marriage viewed codependency as a positive thing.
Yeah.
And
not so much now.
Not so much now. I think now we like thinking from an attachment standpoint. Like I'm authentically choosing enthusiastic connection with and not like attachment to.
I don't want to have attachment styles. I want to have connection styles.
Right.
Here's how I connect with you because I've connected with myself.
Exactly.
And the only attachment I want is with myself.
Right.
Because that means that you get to choose me and not you have to because you're attached to me.
And that took work, I think, like speaking for myself, I'm like my journey to become reconnected with myself has been a really important step of several years to really become connected back in with myself, with my own desires, with my voice, and really learn to radically like love myself. Like all of the parts of me, even the squeaky, angry, fearful, shame, like all of the parts that I was like, that connection with self, I think for both of us has really enabled us to be more conscious of our connection with each other. And I would say that is something that we're continuing to let emerge. And really make it become exactly what we want it to be and nothing that society says like these are the rules of how you connect with somebody. Like we're making it our own.
I mean, even from 20 years ago and the time from then to now, we have changed so much. We have been different people, like I was the breadwinner while you were in school, and then you've been the sugar mama this whole time since you've become Dr. Gabriel. And, we have gone from just a married couple to parents. And we've had so many changes and iterations of who we are as a couple and of who we are individually that we get to keep growing. And I love that we've grown together through that.
Right.
And that's been important for us to learn to grow and to grow with each other and how to walk along that path together.
I think we're leaning in with curiosity to each other.
Which is another discussion.
Totally.
But out of attachment, but through connection. Because that way we're not tripping on each other, but walking beside.
And I think that we've released a lot of fear and holding tight. Scarcity. Like that scarcity and abundance is another huge thing to talk about.
And we want to be able to take our big adventure of the last 20 years and the fears that we've had and the growth that we've had, and we want to share that with you and help you to get through it with your relationships, with yourself, how to grow with yourself and not just with each other, because that's where it starts. Is you had to work on you and I had to work on me before we got to work on we.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And so we're excited to share that with you.
Yeah. And there's like all these little tools. Like, like if there's a tool chest, like what are the different things? And some might be helpful in certain areas and others in other areas.
Yeah. So we look forward to coming to you with lots of shorter videos than this one, and where it's just pulling up some of those tools, and we'll also do some long form videos too. And we invite you in to our life together and apart, because I figure we'll each make some of our own videos and videos with other people too.
Absolutely.
And we want to share our growth with you and get to watch you grow. So stay tuned.
That's right. Welcome to the party.